Good morning. I'd like to introduce our first speaker today, Andrew Penkethman, Managing Director and CEO, Ardea Resources Limited.
Thanks very much, Brooke, and congratulations to the PayDirt team for putting on another terrific event. Certainly equity markets around the world remain challenging, and the nickel price has come off the boil significantly since we were all here last year, but the underlying fundamentals have continued to strengthen, and now is the time to get set. You know, the old adage, buying gloom, selling boom. You know, the fundamentals for nickel have never been stronger. Today I'll be providing an update on Ardea's flagship Kalgoorlie nickel project and focusing on our Goongarrie hub, which we anticipate to be the first of several significant nickel cobalt project developments. Standard disclaimer, and I'll just let you know that this presentation's available on the ASX and Ardea websites, and you're welcome to look at it in your own time. Just quickly, the Ardea team have a strong presence here at the conference. We're at booth number 6, and I clearly can't cover everything I'd like to during this 20-minute presentation, but I'd encourage you to come and introduce yourself to the team and ask any questions you like. Corporate snapshot now. So most importantly, the board and executive management team have the local knowledge, the local support from the City of Kalgoorlie-Boulder and the Shire of Menzies and the broader community, and we're very focused on developing the Goongarrie hub. So that local experience and presence, you know, dates back over decades. The majority of the team have all lived and worked in the local community. We've maintained a disciplined capital structure, so just under 200 million shares on issue, and for a company that's been listed since February 2017, I think that's a fantastic achievement. We maintain very well funded. We completed a $16 million placement at the end of August, and very importantly, the executive management team and board but believe in what we're doing. We're aligned with our shareholders, and collectively we hold about 9% equity in the company, and the top 40 shareholders just under 62%. So we've had a number of presentations already this morning, and we will have several other quality presentations throughout the day, but the key takeaways are that the growing nickel and cobalt demand is expected to double between 2021 levels and 2030. So the fundamentals have never been stronger. Despite the storm clouds swirling around global equity markets, there's never been a better time to get positioned in nickel. So we're seeing the Inflation Reduction Act out of the United States and the European Union Critical Raw Materials Act driving diversity of supply and supply chain security. So that places Australia as a preferred destination for battery and critical mineral sourcing, and in particular Western Australia being ranked as one of the world's best resources operating jurisdiction year in, year out. So what makes our projects a standout? So all of our resources are located on granted mining leases. The KMP is a top 10 global nickel resource. It is the largest resource in Western Australia and therefore the largest nickel resource in the country. These giant deposits are incredibly rare, and they enable the opportunity to plan strategically, and we're talking about mine lives in the decades, not just a couple of years. We completed a PFS earlier this year and announced a summary of those results and a maiden ore reserve on the 5th of July this year, and it demonstrated a robust project development, and we're moving forward with the DFS. We've been running a strategic partner process, and also on the 5th of July we announced the non-binding memorandum of understanding with a consortium of quality Japanese partners that we are working with at the moment to define a scope of work for the DFS and ultimately fund the DFS, and working towards being able to develop this project together. So some of the aspects that make our flagship Goongarrie hub unique are the ore type. So every mineral deposit's different regardless of the commodity, and nickel laterites are no exception. So the image on the right shows the premium goethite ore. You can break it apart with your fingers. It's very soft, it's free dig, so that translates to very low and rapid open pit mine production, low cost. And then from a comminution circuit perspective, there's a very low energy requirement to be able to crush that material, and once you've got it in a process plant, there's very low acid consumption, and again that all translates to industry low operating costs. So just where is the KMP placed in a global resource basis? You can see we feature here as number 7 on this list, and what I'd like you to take away from today's presentation is that these giant resources are incredibly rare and they are essential to help the world decarbonise. Without these projects developed, there is no low carbon future and there is no energy transition. Our project location, so all of our KMP projects are located within 150 kilometres of the city of Kalgoorlie-Boulder, the mining capital of Australia and, in my opinion, the mining capital of the world. Our Goongarrie Hub tenements are highlighted in this image in green, and you can see the existing infrastructure, the Goldfields Highway and rail passing through our granted mining leases. And then the other projects to the east, shown in red, give us additional optionality to increase our production in the future. We're very much focused on Goongarrie as the starter project, but you can't lose sight of the bigger picture and the ability to be able to fully utilise the 6 million tonnes of nickel resources. So the opportunity is incredibly rare. We are the only company in Australia with this scale of resource and with this opportunity. So we'll zoom in now on Goongarrie. So we're 70 kilometres northwest of the city of Kalgoorlie-Boulder. All our ore reserve blocks are highlighted here in red and the mine plan shown, and most importantly it's the proximity to key infrastructure, the road and rail. The environment has been subject to resource project development for approximately 140 years. We have incredible stakeholder support, and that point can't be lost. We're not developing a project in the middle of Australia or a very remote region in South America or Africa. No, we're just north of the mining capital of Australia, and the synergies are unrivalled. Instead of doing a remote stick build, we'll be able to do a modular build. We'll be able to involve the local community, the local service providers, and this will translate to being able to deliver our project to budget and on time. So the project's been well drilled out. There's been over 5,000 drill holes completed and over 250 kilometres of drilling to underpin our resource, and then with the modifying factors applied to convert that to ore reserves. So this is a cross-section through Goongarrie South, and you can see what we refer to as the deep V on the right-hand side, and that's a result of preferential weathering, and that's all premium goethite ore. So we've had multiple movements of the water table. We've had preferential weathering on pre-existing long-lived structures, and that's what has resulted in the formation of this unique deposit and incredible drill hole intersections such as 100 metres at 1% nickel. So now we're looking at the highway deposit, which is the northernmost deposit considered in the PFS. When we concluded the PFS, we only looked at 6 of the Goongarrie Hub deposits. There are 9 in total. So we've got opportunity to extend the mine life beyond the currently defined 40 years. But what's so important about highway is it's our primary source of what we call mineralised neutraliser. So if you look at the image on the bottom right, the brown iron-rich material is goethite dominated, and when we screen that reports to the fine fraction, and then the white material you see there is the magnesium-rich neutraliser, and that reports to the coarse fraction. So what that means is by using the mineralised neutraliser that would otherwise report to waste, we don't have to import our limestone, We don't have the CO2 emissions associated with transporting that material hundreds of kilometres, and we don't have to pay over $100 a tonne to get it to site. We just have to mine the material. And in addition to the benefits of the neutraliser, we generate additional nickel and cobalt production, and it contributes approximately 16% additional nickel metal year in, year out. And the fine fraction, once we sort the mineralised neutraliser, is our primary atmospheric leach feed. So it's an incredible research and development breakthrough from the Ardea team. And to protect our intellectual property, we've filed an international patent application. Bit more on the geology and the opportunity through conventional low-risk, low-cost open pit mining. So here's a series of cross-sections on a 40-metre spacing over 500 metres of strike at Goongarrie South, and you can see the incredible ore continuity there. So the nickel resource envelope is shown in blue and the cobalt in red, and you can see the preferential weathering on the deep V out to the east or the right of the image. But these characteristics allow us to develop a project of scale, and we will be producing approximately 30,000 tonnes of nickel for 40 plus years. And as I've mentioned, the projects of this scale are incredibly rare. The majority of the nickel sulphide operations here in Western Australia just don't come close to that scale, and they don't allow that long-term strategic planning. Again, here's the same cross-sections, but this time with the resource block model grades highlighted and coloured by grade. And you can see there's critical scale, so mineralisation over 1 kilometre in an east-west direction, and the Goongarrie deposits, the 4 of them extend over 25 kilometres of strike, so we've got that critical scale. So I've touched upon most of the key points here already, but the key takeaway and the key highlight of the PFS was our ore reserves. So over 1.3 million tonnes that contain nickel, 99,000 tonnes that contain cobalt. Average nickel production over plus 40 years of 30,000 tonnes of nickel and 2,000 tonnes of cobalt. The image here, so in the foreground we've got the process plant located immediately south of Goongarrie South, which is our highest grade ore source. So it's all about economies of scale. So it's a large scale operation. The process plant uses existing technology, and we have to truck the high grade ore a minimal distance to process it through that plant. Now, as we zoom in on the process plant, everything about our flow sheet utilises proven technology already in use at other operations around the world. There is no risk with the project development. High pressure acid leach is a proven technology. The incorporation of the atmospheric leach circuit, primarily fed by our mineralised neutraliser fines, enables us to use the excess heat from an on-site acid plant to generate our own power on-site, off-grid, and that's also what contributes to our very low CO2 emissions by industry standards. And I'd just like to also highlight the image on the left, and that's our average annual nickel and cobalt production. And again, you just simply don't see projects at this scale very often in the nickel sector. So I've mentioned the low cost, low risk conventional open pit mining. I've mentioned the proven processing technology. I've mentioned the premium goethite ore characteristics, and all those factors contribute to our very low C1 operating costs. So it's under $6,000 US a tonne. So today the nickel price is about $18,500 a tonne. Now we can go through the commodity price cycle, but I think we'd all agree here today that with the outlook for nickel, once we're in production, and the earliest we could achieve that is 2028, it's going to be a completely different price environment with much higher pricing. Here's a snapshot of the key financial metrics from our PFS, and I'd just like to highlight the $800 million EBITDA. So that's every year the potential to generate significant earnings from this project. So again, it just sort of reiterates the scale of the project and certainly reiterates that Ardea is chronically undervalued given where our resource is located, the quantum of the resource and the quality work being completed by the Ardea team. So when we completed the PFS, we identified a number of opportunities that can be carried forward to the DFS to add additional value to the project development. And they include the development of a scandium circuit. So scandium is another critical mineral. It tends to be used as an additive to aluminium to create a lightweight, high-strength aluminium alloy. And you can see a scenario in the future where we'll have electric vehicle chassis made from scandium aluminium alloys, and that's going to add to the strength and lightweight, and it's also going to translate to increased battery range. So we can see a growing market, and we could also be a significant scandium producer. We can continue to optimise the processing circuit, and the technical team are working on that at the moment. And one of the huge value drivers is the residence time in the autoclaves. When we completed the PFS, it was a 70-minute base case, incredibly conservative. We've got test work supporting that residence time being as low as 40 minutes. We're looking at carrying 60-minute residence time forward into the DFS, and that translates approximately to a 15% increase in the material throughput. So instead of being a 3.5 million tonne per annum operation, we'd be 4 million tonnes at negligible additional cost. So that's very low-hanging fruit that'll be carried forward to the DFS. We'll also look at things like stage development and remote operations centres successfully incorporated in several large projects here in WA and particularly in the iron ore sector. I've mentioned our strategic partner process, and with the MOU from the 5th of July, we've demonstrated the quality of some of the potential partners we've been engaging with, and Sumitomo Metal Mining have a terrific track record of success. They've been a company in operations since the 15th century, and they are the most successful nickel laterite project development and operations company. And then we've got household names, Mitsubishi Corporation and Mitsui & Co Limited, who are the largest and second largest trading houses in Japan, respectively. So these are industry giants, and we're currently working through the DFS scope of work, and ultimately the goal is to execute binding agreements and work together to realise the full potential of the Goongarrie Hub. And I guess most importantly, we've had multiple meetings. I've recently been in Tokyo. We've had another delegation in Perth last week, so really look forward to the proactive engagement continuing. Just to demonstrate the strategic scale and the value that can be generated from the Goongarrie Hub once we're in production, on the horizontal x-axis we've got annual nickel production, and on the vertical y-axis we've got annual EBITDA in hundreds of millions of dollars. And you'll see Ardea features incredibly favourably to the far right. And I don't want to labour the point, but it's important that everyone understands the scale of this project, the long mine life, the low expected operating costs, and these are features largely unique to Ardea, our KMP Goongarrie Hub. As we concluded the PFS, we've enhanced our ESG credentials, and we'll be looking to move the in-pit tailings disposal concept forward into the DFS. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we've also demonstrated very low CO2 emissions associated with our Scope 1, 2 and 3 nickel production. So the key points I'd like to leave you with is that Ardea retains 100% of the KMP, located in the best resources operating jurisdiction in the world. All of our resources are on granted mining leases proximal to existing infrastructure, which allows rapid project development. We're working with quality partners such as the Japanese consortium, and we enjoy very strong local stakeholder support, which we're incredibly grateful for. We look to do a deal ultimately with a strategic partner on the Goongarrie Hub, but retain 100% of all other projects, which gives us this unrivalled internal growth opportunity. I haven't had time to talk about our exploration today, but please come and talk to us at the booth. We've got over 4,000 square kilometres of tenure and unrivalled exploration potential. And most importantly, we've got a fantastic team throughout the organisation with the local knowledge and local support to make sure our projects succeed. So thanks very much for your time today and enjoy the rest of the event.